Welcome to the On the Whistle podcast. My name is Alasdair, Howorth, associate producer and host of our new Africa Cup of Nations Daily Digest, where we will bring you all the news, analysis, and stories from Cameroon over the next month. If you want to keep up with our Daily Digest over the course of the month, hit us up on our social media platforms. That's OTW_podcast on Twitter and Instagram, and On the Whistle podcast on Facebook and YouTube. You can find us wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. To kick off our Daily Digest content, we've put together a series of preview podcasts where we talk to players, coaches, administrators, and experts about every country participating in this year's AFCON. First up, we're looking at Group B. Senegal headlines the group alongside Guinea and our two countries representing Southern Africa, Zimbabwe and Malawi. To hear about Senegal and the mood of the country heading into the AFCON, I spoke to journalist Babacar Diarra.
So Senegalese people are really confident about their players, their team. They think they have, if not the best, one of the best squad in the tournament. The only one maybe they are scared of is Algeria, of course, because they didn't lose any player. I mean, one of the key players from the last AFCON, and they have obviously the invincibility since the AFCON and even before, since 2019. So maybe that's the only team that they feel is a bit better than the Lions de la Teranga, but the expectations are really high in Senegal. The pressure will be really high too. They have to finally wait before leaving the country and go to Cameroon, and that means they are really gonna feel that pressure longer than expected. Obviously, the key players are not back. We can talk about that maybe later because of the statement from FIFA. So maybe the build-up to the competition is a bit different than it should be, because all the squad is not gathered at the same time, and that might be a problem when it comes to the first games actually, because one of the player who should start, Ismail Assar, might not start the competition. Kalidou Koulibaly, who is the main defender, is the captain actually, might not also start the competition. So those issues are maybe the points that could give headaches to the head coach Aliou Cissé.
Absolutely. I just wanted to talk about Aliou Cissé. You know, he's now been in Senegal for almost 7 years now. And he's had so many near misses. In 2017, you lost to Cameroon on penalties, who went on to win the tournament. 2018 had that heartbreaking and ridiculous way of being knocked out of the World Cup from the kind of fair play rule. And then 2019 you got to the final, and we're so unbelievably close. What is the feeling in the country around Aliou Cissé? Is there still a lot of support for him? And do the Senegalese people feel like he's still doing a very good job?
Actually, they don't think he's doing a great job. If you're talking in general, if you go to a stadium during a game day of Senegal, people are talking about the quality of play from the team, and they are not satisfied because they don't see an evolution. They feel like the coach is not taking a lot of risk. He's really careful about the way they play, and the supporters would like to see more goals. The quality of play is not the point that they are really satisfied of, but obviously the results are here. The people in charge of the federation are really happy about Aliou Cissé, but the only thing missing for him is the cup, and he has to win the tournament, because after that, if he doesn't, people will question his responsibility, and he might not be the head coach for the World Cup.
That's very interesting. I mean, Yeah, looking back to the 2019 final. I mean, you said, the threat is Algeria. They're the favorites for this one. Like you said, they've gone from strength to strength. They've been undefeated for 32, 33 matches. Looking at the Senegalese squad, I think from the final, there's only 6 players who started that match are still a part of the squad for this. For one reason or another, a few have missed out. Do you feel like the team is in a stronger position than in 2019, or has it, perhaps gone back a bit?
Well, they found some players that were really needed. I'm talking about for example, the left back and right back positions were quite an issue in Egypt. So they found some players who are, they are among the best teams in Europe. When you talk about Bounassa from Bayern Munich in Germany, when you talk about Fodé Ballo-Touré, who is playing with AC Milan, or Abdou Diallo, who is not playing as a left back, but he can. He's playing for PSG and in Senegal at the center back, but his first position would be left back if it wasn't needed with this Lyon La Teranga. So that's a good point. But the issue when I talk about Bounassa and Fodé Ballo-Touré, they are not starters in their teams, and Bounassa has not played a lot this season with Bayern. So people feel like, we got some players who are kind of big names, but they are not sure, people in general, that these players will be ready for a huge tournament like AFCON, and do they have enough minutes in their legs to play that one? Nobody is sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Senegalese team, like I said earlier, it's unbelievable. You have probably the best, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and Edouard Mendy, and Alfred Gomis and Seny Dieng are really impressive themselves. And then, that incredible defense, a very functional and solid midfield, especially, Idrissa Gana Gueye and Palace Mendy, Papa Gueye, but I think for me, the big question is, you've got these incredible talents. And if Ismaila Sarr starts alongside Mane and, the likes of Keïta Baldé, you have some incredible talent there. But for me, the big question is up front. So, last AFCON, we had Mbaye Niang. This time, who is the guy who is going to step up and play up front for Senegal? Who's been playing there for the World Cup qualifiers, and who do you think is the best fit?
The guys really stole the show during the last games was Famara Diédhiou, the former player of Bristol. He scored a hat trick recently. He's really consistent. He has the confidence right now. Then you have the one who didn't take his chance, but we thought he would be the number one up front. It's Boulaye Dia from Villarreal, but I saw a couple of games recently, either with the selection, with the national team, and with Villarreal, and he doesn't score basically. So that's not going well for him ahead of the tournament. I'm not sure he will start, honestly, but let's see what happens. Then we have the kind of joker. I mean, the guy who came in last minute, Bamba Dieng from Marseille. He doesn't score a lot, but he came from nowhere. He scored 2 goals, brace against Monaco in September, and since that day, people wanted to see him with the national team. He played a couple of games. It still does. He has yet to score with Senegal, but he's in the team. He's young. He runs really fast, and people want to see him play because he doesn't have any pressure. He's coming out of nowhere again, as I said earlier. So he will be maybe the newcomer who will explode during the tournament.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier about the kind of disruptive preparation, like most countries coming into the AFCON, people have been really disrupted by COVID, but especially Senegal been impacted by the kind of FIFA ruling that players didn't have to join up, so some coming from, and the Premier League won't even be able to join up until less than a week until the competition starts. And you mentioned Ismaila Sarr's fitness and Kalidou Koulibaly. How much has this impacted the preparation for Senegal, and do you think this is gonna really impact the squad's performances at the AFCON?
Well, the whole preparation changed because the plan was to leave on the 31st of December to Rwanda to play a friendly game there against the local national team, and then go maybe 6 days before the tournament to Bafoussam, where they will play all the group phase game. Mm-hmm. Well, they won't play a friendly game against the national team, so obviously it's a huge difference when it comes to the preparation. And when you don't gather for 2 weeks, it's obviously not the same for the build up to the competition, to have they know each other, but when it comes to play, as I said earlier, they don't have this quality of play. Maybe also because when they prepare for the World Cup qualifiers, they have a short time, so they don't train enough together, and that was an occasion to do that, but they won't. So maybe the whole group phase will be the preparation for Senegal, and they don't have to obviously lose the first game against Malawi, which is obviously the easiest one, and that will give them time to prepare for the main part of the competition where we are waiting for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the group that you're in, Zimbabwe, Guinea, and Malawi, both Guinea and Zimbabwe are, struggling at the moment, and Malawi, obviously they've done brilliantly to qualify, but they're a really small team. So, Senegal have been perhaps quite, blessed in that they have time to play some of these games, alongside the fact that the format, even if you come third, you can still potentially qualify. You can use these games to really, like you said, prepare, for the big matches to come. I just wanted to finally ask you, Babacar, how, you've talked about the mood in the country. When you look at the team, their form over the last couple of years, their preparation, how confident are you that Senegal can do one better than last time and actually go and win this year's AFCON?
I think honestly it will depend on the way they think of details. The leaders are behaving during the tournament. They have the quality, but they are not leading by example like Algeria is doing. They are maybe too much overwhelmed by the pressure of big games where they are facing nations like Cameroon, like Algeria or Morocco. They played a friendly game. I think it was, in the last two years against Morocco, and you could see that they are not ready when it comes to big teams with players that are a huge name, like Hakimi, for example, who is obviously playing for great clubs in Europe. They don't behave the same. They lose a bit their quality, and also they are more careful. They are not playing like they are with Liverpool or Chelsea and clubs like that. So they will have just to think that they are the best, to come with that right mentality. And if they do that, it will change everything. But if they don't, it will be the same as usual. They will feel like underdogs coming up to the game, and they will lose.
From a nation flying high to one in political turmoil, to hear about Zimbabwe's administration problems and the dissolving of Zimbabwe FA just a few weeks before the tournament, I spoke to journalist Stanley Kwenda.
I think it was something that didn't come as a surprise to those of us who have been following the politics of Zimbabwean football. For a long time, there have been accusations directed at the Zimbabwe Football Association, a lot of critics accusing them of mismanaging the game in Zimbabwe. There's been issues, particularly around the management of the national teams, not just the men's senior national football team, but also the women's team, the junior teams. In terms of the junior teams, we have missed quite a couple of important international tournaments where we would be expected to be participating in, chiefly because of what Zifa says, a lack of funds. It has been the same situation with the Zimbabwe women's national team, where sometimes they have had to mount campaigns to try and raise money to get the girls to go and play at international tournaments, when we have a football association that is expected to be doing that particular job. With respect to the national team, it has been the same situation. I'll take you back to the last Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. Our players spent most of their time in Egypt haggling over the payment of allowances. At one point, they refused to board a plane to go to the finals in Egypt because they were owed a lot of money from previous games. But out of the sense of national duty, they packed their bags and went to Egypt. But when they got to Egypt, they got there with a promise that some of these issues were going to be addressed during the tournament. Nothing was done at that particular time, and they ended up playing purely out of the patriotic fervor that they have for their country. So it's a culmination of what has been a build-up of issues with our national team. But the biggest problem we have, there is now an increasing sense that the people who are running football in Zimbabwe have no interest in the game itself. Perhaps they do have other interests in football. I can only speculate what those reasons could be, but for those of us who love the game and follow the game, you can tell that the way the game is managed, it's something that the government thought perhaps they had to intervene at some point. And the intervention was done by the Sports and Recreation Commission, which is a governing body in Zimbabwe whose mandate is to ensure that sport is managed professionally and from an accountability point of view. So it is some of these issues that they have found to be missing that they've decided to suspend the ZIFA board. Chief among them is the lack of accountability in how monies are used at ZIFA, because oftentimes when the national team doesn't have, when there is no money for the national team to travel, for example, or to pay the boys their allowances, it is the Sports and Recreation Commission which often find itself having to intervene and also go with the begging bowl to the central government to get the national team the requisite funds for them to fulfill their duties for the nation. So I would want to think it is a combination of all these issues. And as I'm speaking to you, that issue has not yet been resolved. The ZIFA board has been threatening to take the government to court. They've also been weighing heavily on the FIFA statutes. Obviously, you know, FIFA is quite averse to government interference, but the decision by the government has been getting a lot of support from the football fraternity in Zimbabwe. They think the government is probably doing the right thing. And when you look at the recent games we played, we did qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations, but we did qualify out of sheer luck. If you look at our statistics, I'm pretty sure we won one game and drew a couple and lost I don't have the correct statistics right now, but it wasn't a stellar campaign. We were just lucky that the other teams did manage to cross each other out, that we managed to make our way to Cameroon. And if I'm to predict next month, at the Africa Cup of Nations, if we do manage to go, funds permitting, we will simply be there to make up the numbers, because at the moment there isn't any timetable for when the players are going to be in camp. There isn't any preparation. What they're talking about now is fundraising for the national team. And just this morning or yesterday morning, the Sports and Recreation Commission took it upon itself to announce an $800,000 budget that is going to look after the Warriors when they go to Cameroon for the Africa Cup of Nations. At the same time, ZIFA is also telling people not to listen to the SRC, because they are insisting that they still remain in charge of the national game. So it's a very confusing situation, and this is happening just a weeks away from the Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon, which in itself is a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. And we've seen recently the news as well as certain players have kind of pulled out of the tournament. We've seen Tendai Durikwa pull out, and we've also seen Kama Biliet, who's obviously been, a superstar for Zimbabwe over the course of his career. He's now announced his retirement after the last game of the World Cup qualifiers in November. Do you think that this kind of chaos that's happening behind the scenes has impacted these kind of decisions of these players to actually not participate in the tournament?
Most definitely, it is a big part of why. Because if you look at players like Tendai Darikwa, Brandon Galloway, the likes of Marvelous Nakamba, Knowledge Msona, Kama Biliet, the nucleus of this Zimbabwe national team, to come and play for their national team is a huge sacrifice. It's not like they want to play for the national team in order for the national team to put them on a pedestal where they can be seen by scouts. They don't need that at this particular moment of their careers. So it's sheer sacrifice that they have to come and play for their national team. Previously, they would come to play for the national team and there's no accommodation. They will have to rely on the benevolence of a church pastor to accommodate them at his own church lodgings. This is what has been happening with the Zimbabwe national team in the past. Of course, to be fair to ZIFA, things have somewhat improved in recent months. They've had decent lodgings in Harare. When they are traveling in Zimbabwe during camp, they have to use a borrowed bus from a local club. It's just a mess. And when they are going for training, they're susceptible to getting injuries because they have to play in kind of potato fields, grounds that are not tendered properly for professional players of their stature. People like Marvelous Nakamba, who plays in the Premier League, the likes of Knowledge Musona, even Kama Biliet, they are used to a certain level of professionalism, but when they go back home, they don't get this sort of professionalism that they do get at their clubs. And it's something that I think most of them were worrying, because if you go and play on a potato pitch, it's very easy to get an injury. It's very, very easy to get an injury. Sometimes it's difficult to get basic supplies, such as drinking water during training. So I think there are a whole lot of things that has been wrong with the structure of particularly the national team that has made some of these players to turn their backs on the national team and perhaps thinking of concentrating on their club careers. So that is perhaps, those are perhaps the chief reasons. And at the moment, these players are blamed for failing to qualify, for example, for the World Cup. But for some of us who knows what will be happening behind the scenes, we do understand, because if you don't prepare for matches, you are preparing for defeat. And that's exactly what has been happening with the national team. But when fans look at it, they will simply criticize the players, not knowing what has been happening behind the scenes. But I'm glad that increasingly, even the fans are now starting to pick up the vibes, understand what is happening behind the scenes, and really putting the blame where it should be.
Mm. Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at your group. You have, Senegal, who are, finalists last time at the AFCON, one of the strongest teams in Africa. They're shoo-in to make it at least to the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, you have a Guinea side that, while they have a very good team, they've really struggled in 2021. They've also recently fired their manager DD6 and brought in a new one, Diarra, and even the similar story with Malawi. Did really well to qualify, but have, like yourselves, have struggled in 2021. Do you think that this time around Zimbabwe can get through to the knockout stages, particularly as oftentimes a third place team can qualify? You play Senegal first, but once you've done that, if you can get positive results against Guinea and Malawi, you can get through. Are you hopeful for that, or is it at this point we've qualified, the guys are going to do their best, but there's been too much chaos, and we're going to have to write this AFCON off?
When we completed our World Cup qualifiers, the previous 2-3 games, we knew what we had to do, because we had no chance. What we had to do was to build a team for the Africa Cup of Nations finals. Mm-hmm. Now, with the retirement of Kaba Diawara, with the Tendai Dariko excusing himself, with the injury to Marvelous Nakamba, mm-hmm. and with also Knowledge Musona, who is also very susceptible to injuries, I don't see any chance in this particular group. Yes, Senegal, we hands down, we will be beaten by Senegal. They are favorites for this tournament, and mm-hmm. Even on and off the field, we can't match them. Guinea, they might have their own problems. Excuse me, but one of the things that you have to give them, they do have people who love and know football. At the helm of their football. They do have stellar players. Yes, the campaign might not have been encouraging, but they know how to prepare for these tournaments. If you look at their past records, mm-hmm. they know how to prepare for these tournaments. Malawi, yes, we have a chance of maybe getting a point or beating Malawi, but I think they will go into this tournament better prepared than us. Mm-hmm. So that leaves us as the possible whipping boys of this group, not for lack of talent, but merely because of the disorganization that is in our camp. Right now, as I said earlier on, we don't even know the timetable for the preparations. But for the other countries, they now know, they're going to have pre-tournament friendly matches. They have everything set. They know where their teams are going to be staying. They know where they're going to be training. For us at the moment, we don't have that timetable. We don't have those preparations laid out properly to give our boys a chance to fight for something in Cameroon. But as they always say in football, you can't really rule out a team. Anything can happen on the field of play. I know our warriors are brave. They, for the sake of the nation, they will fight and give it all for the national team. And I know there might be a change of heart with the likes of Dariko. I know there are talks that are happening. Mm-hmm. I know with Marvelous Nakamba, they're saying conflicting reports that he might be out until the end of the season. Some are saying he might be out until Christmas. I spoke to him yesterday. He didn't give any indication. He's just leaving everything to the medical teams. But one thing I know, if he manages to shrug off this particular knee injury, he will definitely want to represent Zimbabwe at the Africa Cup. So if we do have Nakamba back, if we manage to convince Darikwa to come back, if we manage to have Tino Kadewere, who plays for Lyon, if we manage to sort our house, put it into order at least 2-3 weeks before the tournament, then I think maybe we might stand a chance. But the biggest problem we have at the moment is also the situation with the national team coach. We have a coach who is working part-time, basically, because he is still contracted to his club, FC Platinum. Norman Mapeza, our former national team player, who once played his trade at Galatasaray in Turkey. A very shrewd coach. He's still coming up, still learning, but he has the tools to be able to motivate the boys to perhaps try and get something out of this tournament. But that coaching situation is definitely a headache for the national team. We don't know if he is the one who is going to take the national team to the Africa Cup of Nations. I, for one, would recommend that he complete the assignment by taking the team to the Africa Cup of Nations, maybe after the tournament, where Zifa can then decide what they want to do for the future. But for now, at least, because he knows the players, he knows the Zimbabwean football terrain. He has been to the Africa Cup of Nations. He has been to, managed FC Platinum in the African Champions League. So he understands the African game very well. So yeah, those are some of the things that are going to perhaps work against us.
A talented group of players for sure, but can the Warriors do it in Cameroon? If they want to get past the group stage, they'll have to come up against a Guinea side that have been struggling of late and have just taken the decision just on the verge of the tournament to sack their coach Didier Six. I talked to Tanou Diallo and asked him why.
Yeah, Guinea, the fans, all the country people were very unhappy about the performances, the poor performances of the national team. When they started the World Cup qualifiers, they drew against Guinea-Bissau, and they lost against Morocco. So people were very, very unhappy. And and the past months, Guinea is not playing good football. We have some good players, but if you look at the team, there is no structure, there is nothing. So people they're unhappy about that. And to them, they said, if we go to the AFCON with this guy, we don't expect much from him, because he has been here now for more than 1 year. He's coming to his second year, but nothing is happening. We don't see nothing happening in this national team. And people say we have some good players. That we don't have big players, very, very big players, but we do have some good players. And why this man is not succeeding to put something successful on the pitch? So because of that, they said, no, this man should go. He should go, and we have to look for a new coach to take this team to the AFCON.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, speaking of the team, I'm looking at the squad, there seems to be a real variety, because you have, an incredibly strong midfield in terms of the options. Obviously the famous one is Naby Keïta, but, the likes of Amadou Diawara, Madi Camara, Morle Sila, who's based in Guinea. Like, why do you think it hasn't worked out, even though there seems to be quite a strong team kind of in the Guinea side?
That was a question we were asking to DJ Six. He couldn't play those players together. He didn't succeed to play them together. When you saw Amadou Diawara, Madi Camara, Naby Keïta on the pitch, it was just like random players. They couldn't do nothing. They couldn't change nothing in a game. So that was the big question. Why these coach can't play those players together? So we couldn't understand that. So that was one of the issue. That was one of the issues. They said no, because he's not doing this. And in Africa, if you look at other teams, there are not too many teams that have those kind of players in their team. But they're doing well compared to Guinea. They're doing well. But why those three players, you can't play them together? It didn't work. It didn't work out.
Yeah, so I mean, I saw the FA has appointed Kaba Diawara to be the head coach, obviously former Arsenal player. He doesn't have any experience of managing a first team. He was, Didier Six's assistant. What are the expectations on him? Because obviously he's come in, I think he managed the last 2 games in the qualifiers, and now he'll go into the AFCON as the head coach.
To me, it's a big gamble, actually. You are going to the AFCON. This is the biggest competition in Africa. So he's taking a team to the AFCON without no experience. He has been working with Didier Six for the past 2 years, and he has been there before, but not at that position. So it's a big gamble. But the thing is, here, the expectations, they are not high. That's good for him, because people are not expecting much from him. To them, he is going to play the knockout. He's going to play 3 games, and then after that, Guinea is maybe he can qualify for the knockout phase, but people are not expecting much from him. So he has really no pressure on his shoulders. But for him, it's a huge opportunity, because if he goes there and he does well, then maybe because now, for now, he just signed for 3 months. So just after the AFCON, they will sit with him and see whether they can give him the job or not. So if he does well, the AFCON, he might get the job. So for him, it's a huge opportunity. So, but he's going there, no pressure on his shoulders. Yes.
Yeah, it's a clean slate for him, I guess, and a good situation, but also, an unbelievable amount of pressure for your first ever kind of full-time kind of top job. That's incredible. I mean, just looking at the group that you guys are in, you're with obviously Senegal, who are going to be, one of the favorites, one of the best teams in Africa. But then you have also Zimbabwe and Malawi, who are, lower down teams, perhaps not as, as strong as some of these other ones. How confident are you of maybe qualifying the group, or even challenging Senegal to top the group?
Well, it won't be easy. When they did the draw for the World Cup qualifiers, we were in the same group as Guinea-Bissau, Sudan, and Morocco. So people say maybe we can qualify there, because we have 2 weak teams. Talking about Sudan and Guinea-Bissau, but we saw how it went. So now you are going to the AFCON. Don't underestimate Malawi. Don't underestimate Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe is not a weak team. So they can surprise you. And we all know Senegal is the strongest team. They have the best players. So it won't be easy, but if you win your first game, it can give you confidence. So that game, you must win it, because if you draw or you lose, then it's gone. In a big competition like AFCON, you must win your first game. That's very, very important. So we will see how it will how they will manage that game, because they must win it. If they don't win it, then it's going to be very, very difficult to qualify.
Yeah, absolutely. And the AFCON is famous as a tournament for having the smaller teams create the upsets and things. Even last AFCON, you were in a group with Nigeria, Burundi, and Madagascar. Madagascar won the group.
We just draw against Madagascar. So from there we lose confidence, and the team didn't do well.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's that game against Malawi, that first one would be so important for you guys to get a strong result and get going. I'm just, in terms of the players on the squad, like you said at the beginning, Guinea will be one of the teams that, don't necessarily have many stars, obviously, notwithstanding Naby Keïta. Could you just tell us, who are some of the players that we, fans of the AFCON and who are going to be watching, who should they be keeping an eye out for when the tournament comes?
We know already about Naby Keïta. He's actually the star of the team, playing for Liverpool. And then we talked about Diawara playing for AS Roma, and Madi Camara playing for Olympiacos. And then behind those three players, you have one boy playing for Olympiacos. He's doing well this year, Agibou Camara, very good player. And then behind there is that defender, that boy, that young man playing for Saint-Etienne, Saidou So, doing very well with Saint-Etienne. And then you have the striker, Bayo playing for Clermont Foot in the French Ligue 1. He's one of the best top scorers of the league right now. He has already 9 goals. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he will do in January in the AFCON, because he's a good player. He's a good striker. I'm hearing stories that some English clubs are behind him. Every game they are there. They are scouting him. And he's a good player. So, and don't forget the new player coming in the team, that boy of the former player of Barcelona.
Yeah.
Kuruma, now playing in Germany for Leipzig. So it's going to be interesting. You see, you have some good young players, and still Kaba Diawara is scouting some other players. Last week, I think last week he met with that striker of Rennes. What is his name again? Rennes, Girassi.
Oh yeah, okay.
Girassi. So he's still scouting. He's still looking for players. So it's going to be an interesting team. And then the question is, does he have the time to get a team? You can have the players, but it's not easy to get a team. So we'll see. They are good players, but then we'll see if he succeeds to find a team. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And I think from kind of a European audience's perspective, there's been a lot of interesting narrative of, African players deciding to play for their, the countries of their parents and representing African countries. And probably one of the most, biggest ones recently was Elijah Moriba Koroma. So is he, official? Is he going to the AFCON? Because he hasn't featured yet, right? He hasn't played for the national team.
He hasn't featured. No. But he's now qualified. I saw the qualification letter from FIFA recently. So now, from now, he can play for Guinea.
Whether or not he makes his debut at this tournament, Moriba Koroma is for sure to be an excellent addition to the Ghanaian midfield, and we can't wait to see him in action. Turning to our last team in the group, but certainly not least, the Malawi Flames are back at the AFCON, and to talk to us about the team is our good friend Gome Zakazaka, who's already appeared on this podcast once before to talk to us about the Flames.
I would say we are excited that the days that we have been looking for this match, to the participation at the AFCON. And now that we are going there, the hype is high, and now the team has started camping. They started camping on Tuesday with the local base players, especially those that are not engaged in competitions at the moment. Because we have finished the league and now we are playing a competition that is participated by only the top 8 teams. So the players belonging to the teams that are not active have gone into camp, to start preparing, waiting for the main camp when other foreign-based players are going to join. So the camp started on Tuesday, and it's gonna go up to the 22nd, 23rd, when we expect the contingent of foreign-based players to join in. And we have got a scheduled training camp in Saudi Arabia, where we're going to spend about 3 weeks, and we're going to fly from Saudi Arabia into Cameroon for our matches. So I would say, yes, we are excited. The preparations have started, and we're just looking forward to Cameroon. And you have also seen that there have been changes in our approach, in our philosophy, in our technical panel. So things are really geared up in as far as our participation for these editions of the Africa Cup of Nations is concerned.
Amazing. That's really good to hear and really encouraging to hear. Going back just to the beginning of the AFCON qualification, Malawi this is their 3rd competition they've qualified for, but they haven't done it in over a decade. And it's been a long decade with not much to write home about. But what has been the difference in qualifying? How have the Flames been able to turn it on and get through into this tournament?
I think critical was the consistency in team selection, having same players that have played together for a long time. I think we have gone with that approach, I think, for a long time, where we do have a generational squad, a team that will play together for 5 to 6 years. Then at the end of 6 years, they achieve results. And the subsequent years, the teams fade out and you start rebuilding again. And it takes us a lot of time. Because if you look at the squad that qualified for 2010 World Cup, it's a team that started playing together from late 2004. They were together 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. And by the time they're starting the qualifiers, they were at the peak of their combination. And that's why we were able to qualify for 2010 Angola. And similarly, the squad that we have now is a team that has been together since 2017. When we brought in Ron van Hingen, he came in and started assembling the new squad, bringing in new players, youngsters, and they started playing together from there in 2017, 2018 as a core group. And he left at the beginning of 2019. And when Meke Mase inherited the team, he did not disband the project that RVG had started 3 years before. So this is the same project that RVG started in 2017, and we are continuing that. And it's that combination that I finally worked and produced results when we were in this group, and finally we qualified for the AFCON.
That's really good to hear. Building upon the cycles of players, that's really, really important. I think one thing I wanted to touch upon is since you were last on the podcast, it's been a difficult time for many of us with what's going on with COVID, and it's been a difficult time for football in Africa. And one of the issues in the World Cup qualifying is Malawi is forced to play your home games in South Africa, not in Malawi. And some of the results it's been a difficult campaign. You were in a really, really tough World Cup qualifying group, probably the group of death with both Cameroon and Ivory Coast. But how did that affect kind of performances in the World Cup qualifiers and in preparation for the AFCON? The fact that you couldn't even play, you haven't played a game in Malawi since March.
Yeah, sure. It was so. I think it really affected us. If you consider that when we play at home, we normally get the results. And if you look at our AFCON qualification, we played 3 games at home. We managed to collect 7 points. We beat South Sudan, we beat Uganda, and drew against Burkina Faso. We never conceded a goal during the last campaign. And even if you go the previous campaign for 2019 qualification, whereby we were drawn against Comoro as well as Morocco, you would see that we played that qualification against Cameroon, of course. We also had Cameroon for the 2019 qualification. Cameroon, Morocco, and Comoro. We played all the 3 matches. We're not conceding at home. We drew 0-0 against Cameroon and Morocco. We beat Comoro and collected 5 points at home, meaning that we are strong at home. When you're playing at home, we are strong. We don't concede. The ways that we can do is a goalless draw, but we are really good at home. And it was unfortunate that for the World Cup qualifiers, we are not unable to play at home due to the quality, rather to the condition of our national stadiums, which were deemed unfit by FIFA as per their new guidelines on facilities. So we had to opt for Orlando Stadium in Johannesburg because it was convenient for us to easily assemble our squad, considering that the biggest contingent of our foreign-based players is based in South Africa. But again, in terms of travel arrangements and in terms of even the cost itself of the organization aspect of the match, it was easier We collaborated well with South Africa Football Association as well as COSAFA, which helped us to organize a match. So it was very easy to organize a match in South Africa than anywhere else. But as we saw the results as they came, much as we did well in the first game at home against Mozambique, but the subsequent matches against Ivory Coast and Cameroon, we fared badly, lost by big goal margins. That shows that we lost that home vibe that we normally utilize when we're playing in Malawi. So it really affected us, much as we accept, and we had accepted from day one when the draw was done, that we were in a tough group and it was going to be difficult for us to emerge as group winners, because already you had Cameroon, you had Ivory Coast, I mean the giants of Africa. It was already described as a group of death from the onset. But I believe that we should have done something better if we had played those 3 matches at home and we would not have finished bottom of just 1 single win and 5 losses. But nonetheless, we accepted the reality that we are playing against giants, winning against them and going into the next phase, a bonus. But basically, it was a matter of, okay, we have these giants. It's very difficult for us to secure friendly matches against these top sides. Normally, during the FIFA international windows, they normally prefer to play against each other in Europe or play against top European countries or South American countries. And for us, most countries in Southern Africa to secure top matches against teams like Ivory Coast, Cameroon, it's really very difficult and very expensive. So for us, it was like, okay, let's get this competition as a preparatory phase for the AFCON. And let's use these matches to see what it's going to be like to face big teams in AFCON. So we really benefited a lot playing against Cameroon twice, home and away. I mean, those are big matches you never get, you rarely get any day. Playing against Ivory Coast with all the big stars, the Zahas, you know, the Pepes in there. It was really a big exposure and experience for the boys to feel what it's gonna mean to go in Cameroon and face players like Sadio Mane from Senegal, the likes of this guy who's playing for Aston Villa, Nakamba for Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. So it was really good for the boys, and we have gained a lot from the 6 matches, building into the final phase of our preparations, which is a training camp in Saudi Arabia. And there are also top nations that watched us play in the World Cup qualifiers that are interested to play against us in Saudi Arabia. Matches have not been confirmed yet, but there are 3 top-notch friendly matches against top sides from West Africa, top sides from North Africa that we are going to play against in Saudi Arabia. And building on that, we believe that we're going to be well prepared going into our first match in Cameroon.
Yeah, and absolutely, you'll have some big games. I mean, the group you're in, you know, you've got Senegal. Last time out, they got to the final and are definitely one of the favorites to win it, with an incredible team and a very, very strong Guinea side as well. And as well as the only other Southern African team in the competition, Zimbabwe. You've kind of got your local derby right there. So in that process of learning from that World Cup qualification campaign, one of the things that's come out is the appointment of Mario Maranitza, the Romanian trainer, as a technical director. Could you just tell us a bit about that and how, you know, Meke Mwase, you've spoken about how important he's been to building on this AFCON side, and how he's still the head coach, but now you have a technical director over him. What is the relationship of Mario, and what's going to be his role in the AFCON?
So basically, Mario came in pure as technical director. It was the executive committee of farm made a decision that we have had local TDs, I think, for the past I should say 12, 13 years. But I think we have made little progress in as far as the laying foundation for developmental programs is concerned. So it was okay, can we try something else? And the decision was made, can we bring an expatriate? And that's why the post was advertised. And Mario was one of the few European coaches who applied for the post, and he came out successful after interviews and was given the post pure as a TD. But now going into how we have performed in the World Cup qualifiers, I think we have not done well. Much as we are facing top sides, and we knew that there's going to be a tall order, but the performance, looking at some of the results, you look at how we lost against Cameroon 4-0, you lost against Ivory Coast 3-0, home matches. And our performance was not the expected performance. And looking at those trends, it was decided, and now we're going to the bigger stage now. If we are performing against these giants like this, what is going to be like in Cameroon? So a decision was like, okay, let's analyze how our team was fared, and technical deficiency was observed. And that's why I say, okay, we already have got Mario here as a technical director, and he has already been working with the coaches, going into the final 2 matches. He worked with the coaches, going into the final matches against Cameroon in South Africa and Mozambique in Benin. So it was like, okay, Mario now understands how this team is playing. He now can work closely with these coaches. So just specifically for the AFCON, Mario comes in as head of technical, and Meke Mwase remains as the first team coach of the team. And the backroom staff, all of them have been maintained. There have been a few additions whereby there are 2 guys coming from Europe to beef up the technical panel. One as a data analyst, and another one as a physiotherapist. So that was the approach. Now that okay, we are going at a bigger stage, and we need to adapt how things are being done internationally. Football has evolved. It's now about analyzing data. It's now scientific. It's no longer about going on the field of play, doing your normal training sessions. You have to go beyond that. And looking at the kind of people we have in Malawi at the moment, we don't have qualified people to look at football from the data and scientific point of view. So this is why this decision was made. And that's how we are going into AFCON with Mario as the head of technical.
Okay, excellent. That's really good. And really good to hear that Malawi is seeing, kind of identifying the areas where we've been struggling and have sort of made those moves to kind of bring Malawi into the modern era of kind of analytics and things like that. That's very encouraging going into the AFCON. Gome, Malawi is obviously one of the smallest teams coming into this tournament, and for viewers of the AFCON, they'll be one of the most unknown teams. With, you're saying, a lot of local-based players, a lot of their foreign-based players are in South Africa, whereas most teams base their teams around players playing in Europe. We had Richard Mbulu, who's obviously scored that all-important goal to take you guys to the AFCON in our last podcast. But would you mind just telling us, who are the players that we as the observers who don't know much about Malawi, who should we be keeping an eye out for? Who are the dangerous players? Who are the players who really, have brought Malawi to this point?
Yeah, you have right to mention about Mbulu. He's one of our top strikers. He's one of the players to watch. But in general, just say that it's unfortunate that we are going into AFCON with most of our top players not enjoying game time at their clubs. Mbulu at Baroka FC, I think he's on and off. Unlike the time that he scored that goal against Uganda, I think he was their main striker. You talk about Gabadinho Muhango, who is probably our best player. He plays for Orlando Pirates. He hasn't played a match since August in the league. He just got a minute or so in their last match in the CAF Confederations Cup as a substitute. So taken from that perspective, you can see that it's a bit of concern from our top players' perspective. We have Captain Rebecca Nzava. He plays for Mazulu as a center defender. He too has not been enjoying game time of late. Gerard Piri has just moved from Baroka FC to Al Hilal of Sudan. He's also one of the key players. We also have got another player playing in Moldova, Charles Petro. His team, Sheriff, qualified for the Champions League. He was one of the consistent players when they were in the qualifying phase, playing even in the last match that took them in the group stages and not registered for the group stages itself. So you see, we have had a setback in as far as our foreign-based players are concerned, in as far as playing regularly for their clubs. But nonetheless, we believe that they're still training at top level because those are professional teams. And when they come back to join the team, I think they'll take the spirit that they had when we played the previous matches and know how important AFCON is. It's important for the country, but again, it's important for them as players. This is the biggest platform for them to get to expose themselves so that they can get deals elsewhere, because most are not doing well with their clubs. So this is the time for them to show that they still have what it takes. So from to summarize it, I would say Gabadinho Muhango remains our trump card. Richard Mbulu on the sidelines. But again, we have got somebody who is emerging, and this is Kuda Muyawa. Kuda Muyawa, so far, he's doing well for his club. He plays for Polokwane FC, the first division of South African football hierarchy. And he's the leading top goal scorer, in fact, for his club. And indeed, the league itself, he's at 8 goals now in the Glad Africa Championship in South Africa as the leading scorer. And he's the one who also scored our last goal in the AFCON against Ivory Coast in Benin. So you can see that he's also there. You see that, okay, raising up his hand and say, okay, if Mbulu is not on top. If Gabadinho is not on top of his game, I am here. I can also deliver. So I'll mention those players as our top players. We also got this young man who moved from Sheriff FC in Moldova. He came back to Africa. He's playing for Simba in Tanzania. That's Peter Banda. He's also an exciting player coming from the right hand. So we believe he is also one of the players to watch at the tournament. I believe when we played against Ivory Coast, he was the player that gave them tough time. And he was one of our outstanding players in the World Cup qualifiers. So those are the 5-6 players I can mention that Malawi is banking their hopes on. And we believe that they know how important this competition is, not just for the country, but for themselves, because this is the platform that they'll brush shoulders with the best of the best. And it's the world watching, and who knows what might happen after a good show in Cameroon.
That concludes our Group B preview podcast for the Africa Cup of Nations. Stick with us as we bring you news and analysis of every single team in every single group of this brilliant tournament. If you enjoyed what you listened to, please leave us a review, OTW_podcast, and have a wonderful day.